Martial artist, movie star, philosopher, icon. When you think of Bruce Lee, so many words come to mind. It's wild to think how much of a mark one person could leave on the world in such a short time. So today, we're going to dive deep into the life and really the incredible legacy of the one and only Bruce Lee.
Ah, yes, be water, my friend. So many of us know that cool, right? But it's so much more than just a cool line from an old interview. It's really the heart of a philosophy that completely reshaped martial arts and, honestly, inspired millions of people around the globe. It's our first clue that we're talking about a man who was way, way deeper than just the characters he played on screen. And that really is the big question, isn't it? I mean, why are we still so obsessed with Bruce Lee, more than 50 years after his death? The guy only made a handful of movies, but his influence is, well, it's everywhere. So what's the secret? What is it about him that makes him feel just as relevant today as he was back in 1973? All right, let's get into it. Let's unpack this legend.
So where do we even begin with his legacy? Well, it goes way beyond Hollywood. In fact, you can draw a straight line from his ideas to one of the fastest growing and, yeah, most brutal sports on the entire planet.
I mean, listen to this. The president of the UFC, Dana White, he straight up calls him the father of mixed martial arts. That is a huge statement. Think about what the UFC is today, a massive multi-billion-dollar global enterprise. And its core idea, its very foundation, this concept of taking what works from any fighting style and throwing out what doesn't, that's pure Bruce Lee. Okay, so how does someone even get to an idea that revolutionary? How do you break with centuries of tradition? To get that, we've got to go back to his pretty unique background and to one specific fight, a fight that changed literally everything for him. You see, Lee always kind of had a foot in two different worlds. He was born in San Francisco but grew up in Hong Kong, and then came back to the States when he was 18 with just $100 in his pocket. And here's the key part. He didn't just study martial arts. He went to the University of Washington and majored in philosophy. And that degree, it wasn't just a piece of paper to hang on the wall. It became the intellectual engine for the revolution he was about to start. And this is the turning point. It's 1964. Lee gets challenged by another kung fu master, basically because he was teaching martial arts to non-Chinese students, which was a big no-no back then. Now, Lee won the fight. It was over in like 3 minutes, but for him, it felt like a total failure. He was gassed, completely exhausted. He felt clumsy, inefficient, and it was this huge realization. His traditional Wing Chun training, as great as it was, just wasn't cutting it for a real all-out street fight. Something big had to change.
And that feeling, that deep dissatisfaction with his own performance, that became the spark. It was the catalyst for his single greatest contribution to the world of martial arts, a philosophy so radical it basically broke from thousands of years of tradition.
What he created was Jeet Kune Do, or JKD, the way of the intercepting fist. But he was always super clear about this. JKD is not a new style. You can't just learn JKD moves. It was a process, a philosophy. He even called it scientific street fighting, because it was all about one simple question. In a real fight, what actually works? You strip away all the fancy, inefficient stuff and keep only what gets the job done.
And this right here, this is the heart of it. Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is uniquely your own. I mean, just think about that for a second. That's not just a guide for fighting, is it? That's a guide for life. It's a blueprint for freeing yourself from any rigid system. Don't get trapped by rules or dogma. Take the best of what's out there, throw away the junk that doesn't work for you, and build something that is 100% authentically you.
So he's got this revolutionary mindset, and it wasn't just for the dojo. He took that same philosophy, that same urge to break down old, useless forms, and he pointed it straight at Hollywood, ready to smash some of its oldest and ugliest cultural barriers.
You really have to appreciate what a massive cultural earthquake this was. Before Bruce Lee, if you saw an Asian man in a Western movie, he was probably some sneaky villain or a quiet, passive sidekick. It was just stereotypes. Lee didn't just break that mold, he obliterated it. For the first time, audiences were seeing an Asian man as a powerful, masculine, charismatic protagonist. Not an Asian hero, just a hero, full stop.
And his appeal was just universal, especially for people who felt overlooked or pushed to the side. His characters were almost always underdogs, fighting against some big, powerful oppressor. That resonated like crazy with working-class folks and marginalized communities all over the world. You know, particularly in America, he became this huge icon in Black culture. The whole vibe of his movies, discipline, strength, self-reliance, It really connected with the spirit of the Black Power movement in the 70s. And it's no coincidence that his very first student back in America was a black man named Jesse Glover.
So Enter the Dragon is about to come out. Lee is on the absolute verge of becoming the biggest movie star on the entire planet. He'd done it. He'd broken every single barrier. And then, at the very peak of his power and fame, the story takes this unbelievably tragic turn. And it leaves behind a mystery that people are still arguing about to this day. 32. He was only 32 years old. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died. Just suddenly, in Hong Kong. Now, they released an official cause of death, but almost immediately, nobody really believed it was that simple. And that's when the theories started. Conspiracy theories, rumors, a whole fog of mystery that honestly still hasn't lifted.
Okay, so the official story was cerebral edema, that's swelling of the brain, caused by an allergic reaction to a painkiller called Equagesic. But a lot of people were like, wait a minute, he'd taken that drug before with no problem, it just didn't sit right. So other theories popped up over the years. One in 2018 suggested maybe it was heat stroke. But a very recent medical paper has put forward a brand new and pretty startling possibility. And that brings us to this new idea, the hyponatremia hypothesis. Sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Hyponatremia is basically a condition where you drink too much water, so much that it dilutes the sodium in your blood down to dangerous levels. And when that happens, your cells, including your brain cells, start to swell up with that excess water.
Now, the scientists behind this theory argue that Lee was kind of a perfect storm of risk factors. For one, he was reportedly on a very fluid-heavy diet, lots of juices and teas. He also used marijuana, which can make you feel extra thirsty. Plus, he was taking prescription drugs like diuretics, which mess with your body's ability to handle water. And maybe the biggest clue, he'd actually collapsed 2 months earlier from what doctors now think was a serious kidney injury. So the theory goes, his kidneys just couldn't get rid of the excess water he was taking in, and that's what caused the fatal brain swelling.
And here's where it all comes together in this just heartbreakingly ironic way. The man whose entire philosophy was built around the phrase, be water, be formless, be adaptable, be powerful like water, may have been killed by that very same element. Philosopher, fighter, global icon. Bruce Lee's life was tragically cut short, there's no doubt about it. But his ideas about self-expression, about shattering barriers, about adapting to whatever life throws at you, they've only gotten stronger over time. He really proved that a single person can change not just an industry, but how we see ourselves and each other, which really makes you wonder, what will his legacy look like in another 50 years?